In the shadowed realms of ancient Scandinavia, where the cold winds whispered secrets through the fjords and the northern lights danced upon the heavens, there existed a belief system as old as the earth itself. Norse spirituality, born of the wild and untamed lands, was a tapestry woven with threads of the mystical and the unseen. Here, gods and spirits walked among men, and the veil between the worlds was but a thin mist, easily parted by those who knew the sacred rites. In the hearts of the Norse, the spirit world was not a distant place, but a living presence in their everyday lives. They sought wisdom from the spirits of their ancestors, guidance from the gods who ruled the skies, and protection from the beings that lurked in the shadows. Through rituals steeped in ancient knowledge, they bridged the gap between the mortal and the divine, speaking with voices long past and beings not of this world. This was not a spirituality of gentle prayers and quiet reflections. No, it was a faith forged in the fires of a harsh land, where the mysteries of life and death were laid bare for all to see. It was a spirituality that demanded courage, for to contact the spirits was to step into the unknown, to face the fears that dwell within the darkest corners of the soul. As we delve into the practices of this ancient faith, we will uncover the rituals that called forth the spirits, the tools that channeled their power, and the individuals who walked the perilous path between the worlds. In these explorations, the echoes of the past will reverberate once more, reminding us of a time when the earth was young and the spirits were close at hand. In the twilight of Norse myth, there exists a practice as ancient as the wind that sweeps across icy fjords, a craft known as Seiðr. This was no ordinary art, but a gateway to realms where the living and the spectral converged, where the shroud of reality was lifted to reveal the hidden currents of fate. Seiðr was the sacred path walked by the völva, the seeress who dared to peer beyond the veil of the mundane and into the swirling mists of the unknown. Cloaked in the mysteries of the night, the völva would enter her trance, her spirit drifting free from the constraints of flesh, gliding effortlessly into the shadowed realms where the spirits dwelled. Her voice, a melodic incantation, wove through the air like a spell, beckoning the spirits from their hidden places. They came to her, these ethereal beings, drawn by the magnetic pull of her chant, eager to share their wisdom, their warnings, their visions of what was and what might be. In this sacred communion, the völva would glimpse the strands of fate, each thread a life, a story, a future yet to unfold. The spirits whispered secrets of the gods, of battles won and lost, of loves found and forsaken, of destinies sealed in the blood of heroes. But this was no simple exchange. Seiðr demanded a sacrifice of its own. The völva's soul danced on the edge of oblivion, at risk of being lost in the abyss from which she sought her answers. To wield Seiðr was to hold dominion over the unseen forces that shaped the world. It was to walk with the spirits, to command the elements, to bend the flow of time itself. Yet, it was also a burden, for the knowledge it bestowed was often a bitter draught, foreknowledge of doom, of despair, of the inexorable march of fate. In Seiðr, the Norse shamans found both power and peril, and through it, they navigated the treacherous waters of the human condition, ever aware that to see the future was to bear the weight of all its shadows. Beneath the cold silver light of the moon, in the ancient lands where the Norse people once dwelled, there were rituals woven from the very threads of twilight, rituals of spirit contact that bridged the realms of the living and the dead. These were no simple rites. They were the heartbeats of a forgotten world, echoing through the darkened forests, across windswept plains, and deep into the soul's shadowy corridors. The ceremony would begin as dusk surrendered to night, when the veil between worlds thinned to the delicate transparency of a spider's web. The air, thick with the scent of pine and earth, hummed with an otherworldly energy as the participants gathered. Here, in the hallowed circle they stood, faces illuminated by the flickering flames of torches, eyes reflecting the dance of firelight like ancient runes. Each carried with them a burden of intent, a desire to commune with the unseen, to call forth the spirits that lingered in the spaces between breaths. With voices that rose and fell like the undulating waves of a stormy sea, the chanters began their invocation. Their words, ancient and powerful, were spoken in a tongue as old as the gods themselves, vibrating through the ether with a resonance that stirred the very earth beneath their feet. The chants were not mere words, they were keys to the locked doors of the spirit world, each syllable turning the tumblers, each intonation a step closer to opening the gateway. In the center of this gathering, offerings were laid out, precious gifts to entice the spirits. Blood of beasts, mead sweet as honey, and sacred herbs burned in the fire, their smoke curling upwards, carrying prayers to the heavens. These offerings, made with reverence, were the currency of the ethereal, tokens to appease the restless souls and gain their favor. Ceremonial objects, passed down through generations, played their part in this sacred theatre. Ritual daggers gleamed with a cold light, their edges keen as the north wind. Staffs carved with intricate symbols, each line a spell, stood like sentinels at the circle's edge. Talismans, worn close to the heart, pulsed with the energy of forgotten gods, protecting those who dared to reach beyond the mortal coil. As the ritual unfolded, the boundary between worlds trembled. The air grew heavy with anticipation, each breath thick with the promise of communion. And then, in the stillness that followed the last note of the chant, they appeared. Spirits, summoned from the depths of the unseen, hovering at the edge of perception. Their presence was a whisper, a flicker, a chill that danced along the spine. The veil had been pierced, and the living stood in the company of the dead. In these moments, the Norse shamans and their followers glimpsed the eternal. They heard the voices of those long past, felt the touch of the divine, and saw the world through the eyes of the spirits. It was a communion fraught with danger, yet rich with the wisdom of the ages. A sacred exchange that bound the mortal to the immortal, the known to the unknown. Runes, born from the marrow of the earth and the breath of the wind, were the keys to realms unseen. Each rune, carved with intent and precision, was a gateway, a passage through which one might commune with the divine, summon the spirits of the dead, or unravel the threads of fate that bind us all. They were tools of the seer and the shaman, wielded with reverence and fear, for their power was as boundless as the night sky and as treacherous as the winter sea. In the dim glow of firelight, a seeker would take up the runes, fingers tracing the edges of each symbol, as if drawing forth the very essence of the gods. The act of casting runes was no mundane task. It was a sacred ritual, a dance with destiny. As the runes fell, their patterns were read like the lines upon a palm, each configuration a story whispered by the fates. It was in these stories that the past, present, and future entwined, a tapestry woven from the strands of time itself. To the Norse, runes were more than a means of divination. They were a bridge between worlds. In their intricate lines and curves lay the power to summon the spirits of the dead, to call upon ancestors long gone, and to receive their wisdom. The dead, it was believed, spoke through the runes, their voices carried on the wind, their words etched in stone. The runes, when cast, became the medium through which the living could converse with the departed, seeking guidance, solace, or retribution. But the power of runes was not limited to the dead. They were also a direct line to the gods themselves. Odin, the All-Father, had sacrificed much to gain their knowledge, and so too did those who sought their power. To invoke a rune was to invoke a god, to draw upon divine power that could heal or harm, bless or curse. Each rune carried the essence of a deity, a fragment of the divine spark that could light the way through darkness or cast one into the abyss. The Norse did not wield runes lightly. Each was a prayer, a command, a plea sent out into the vast unknown, with no certainty of the response it would bring. The runes were feared and revered in equal measure, for they did not merely predict the future, they shaped it, bending the will of the universe to the desires of those who dared to call upon their power. In the hands of the Norse, the runes were not just a tool, they were a living force, a connection to the eternal, a key to the mysteries that lie beyond the veil of this world. In the ancient lore of the Norse, where the winds howl with the voices of ancestors and the forests breathe with the presence of unseen forces, there exists a bond so sacred, so entwined with the very fabric of the soul, that it transcends the mortal plane. This is the bond between man and beast, a connection not of flesh, but of spirit, a communion with the wild that stretches beyond the veil of the physical world into the shadowed realms where the spirit animals dwell. The Norse believed that within every warrior, every shaman, every soul that walked the earth, there existed a kindred spirit, a guardian, and a guide, an animal totem that mirrored the essence of the person it chose. These were no ordinary creatures, but manifestations of the sacred forces that governed the natural world. The bear, with its strength and ferocity, might embody the courage of a warrior. The raven, dark and cunning, could symbolize the wisdom of the seer. The wolf, fierce and loyal, might be the protector of the clan, its spirit howling through the night as a sentinel against the unknown. In the silence of the night, under the cold gaze of the moon, the Norse would seek communion with their spirit animals, calling upon them in moments of need, in rites of passage, in the throes of battle, and in the quiet rituals of daily life. The connection with these totems was not merely symbolic. It was believed to be a living, breathing relationship, a pact between the human and the divine, forged in the fires of the soul and sealed with the blood of the ancestors. To dream of one's spirit animal was to receive a message from the gods, a sign that the spirit world had taken notice, that one's fate was being shaped in the ethereal realm. These dreams were more than mere visions. They were prophecies, warnings, blessings bestowed by the spirits who walked alongside the living. A raven might come to whisper secrets of the future, a bear to lend its strength in times of peril, a wolf to guide one through the labyrinth of life's challenges. But the bond between the Norse and their spirit animals was not one of domination. It was a partnership, a mutual respect forged in the understanding that man and beast were intertwined in the cosmic order. The spirit animal was not a servant, but a companion, a protector, and a teacher. It walked beside the Norse, both in this world and in the next, guiding them through the darkness, showing them the way to the other side. In the rituals of the Norse, these totems were honoured with offerings and prayers, their images carved into wood and stone, their essence invoked in chants and songs. The spirit animal was called upon to lend its power, to share its wisdom, to stand as a guardian in times of danger and uncertainty. To invoke the spirit animal was to draw upon the primal forces of nature, to tap into the wild, untamed energy that flowed through the veins of the earth and sky. In the eyes of the Norse, the world was alive with the presence of these totems, every creature a potential guide, every encounter a step closer to the divine. The spirit animal was more than a symbol. It was a living force, a beacon in the darkness, a bridge between the mortal and the eternal. Their spirit animals walked with them, silent and unseen, leading them through the mysteries of life and death, through the endless journey of the soul, into the embrace of the gods. The ancient Norse, with their profound communion with the natural world, their rites of Seiðr, and their reverence for spirit animals, bequeathed a legacy that transcends the annals of history. Their spiritual practices, once woven into the fabric of their daily lives, continue to inspire and resonate within the hearts of seekers and practitioners today. The symbols of runes, the sacred chants, and the ceremonial rites of old still flicker like distant stars, guiding those who seek to bridge the ancient wisdom with the modern quest for meaning. As we stand upon the threshold of past and present, gazing into the depths of these venerable traditions, we are beckoned to reflect upon their timeless influence. How do the echoes of Norse spirituality shape the labyrinth of our contemporary beliefs? What wisdom can we glean from their ancient rites as we traverse our own spiritual journeys? In the silent contemplation of the old gods, in the reverence of forgotten rituals, may we find not just the shadows of a bygone era, but the living essence of a legacy that endures through the ages. And so, dear seeker, how will you weave the threads of this ancient wisdom into the tapestry of your own spiritual quest? Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more explorations of the spirit.